Hello. I'm going to be talking about NHS policies with regard to transgender staff. But first of all, I'm going to tell you that my dog has turned into a pervert. You see, what happened was that he kept roaming around the place with my slippers, and I got fed up of hopping around the house looking for the other slipper. So I started putting my slippers up high where he can't reach them. Well, you see, he does have a modicum of intelligence, and he's decided if he can't have the slippers, he'll take something else. So he started to raid the laundry basket and pull out articles of my underwear, which he then wanders around the house carrying and depositing in various parts of the house where he wants to lie down, in the sitting room, for instance. So, yeah, that's turning into quite an embarrassing thing, especially when guests arrive. Okay, anyone who can give me some advice on what to do about that? I suppose I'm going to be reduced to locking the laundry basket now. I wonder what's next. Anyway, I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter and Gab. That's where I'll let you know when I've uploaded a new video. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe. You can also buy me a coffee. All the links to what I've been talking about are in the description, except for the share button, which should be somewhere just underneath this video. Click like. Okay, let's just get on with this. This is in the Telegraph from the 9th of June. Patients may be guilty of discrimination if they refuse care of transgender medic, NHS bosses told. New guidance warns NHS staff that patients have no right to be told a healthcare worker's assigned sex at birth. That's nicely put. It means that this riding hats play havoc with your hair, you know. Sorry about that. So what's happened? What's happening is that you get these, especially old people, I suppose, who see somebody who looks a bit odd and they say, are you a man or a woman? And these patients have no right to refuse the attention of these people. Patients may be found guilty of discrimination. So the patients, people who are ill, people who may not be entirely on the ball, people who are old, who are frail, who are weak, who are lonely, who often have no one to stand up for them, they are guilty of discrimination if they decide that that strange looking person isn't really a woman but a man in a woman's dress, and they don't want them to be looking after. They don't want those people to be looking after them. The point is that the NHS, any health service of any sort, is supposed to be there to help the patient. The carer is supposed not to be important in that case. But what's happened here is over a time, there's been a sort of tipping. It started years ago, actually, when it was decided that, for instance, white patients could not say, no, I don't want that nurse looking after me because she's black. Now, that isn't very nice. I'm not standing up for that. I find it distasteful. But on the other hand, you don't know what's in that person's history. I mean, they may have been born in a time when there were no black people at all to speak of in their area. They're just not used to it. And being very old, they're going back to their early childhood ways of thinking. It may be indeed that one of them might have been attacked by somebody black and is fearful. You know, but even if it's just simple, nasty prejudice, they are the patient. They are supposed to be, well, have primacy in considerations here. And I remember when that decision was made, that a patient who makes some sort of a racial comment, I'm not talking about attacking somebody. I'm talking about just saying I'd rather not have that person looking after me. That they are therefore unworthy of medical attention. Basically, that's what was being said. I remember thinking at the time that that's a bad thing, even though it's not nice for the carer. But then that's what the carer is supposed to accept, because that's what caring is supposed to be about. Except nowadays, that's not what caring is supposed to. The word care is wrong. A hospital worker is what they've become, and they are as aware of their rights as anybody else, and will not put them aside for the patient, who are just material that they are processing. That's the basic attitude, and it's becoming more. At first, it was very difficult to defend some old guy who won't have a Caribbean nurse looking after him. Very difficult, you know, to stand up for somebody like that. And so very few people did. And now that's become established. So we've got now transgender who are, muscling in on that sort of offence territory. Health bosses have been warned that patients have no right to be told a healthcare worker's assigned sex at birth. However, transgender health workers can choose not to treat patients if they feel uncomfortable doing so. The report by NHS Confederation says, well, at this point, the hospital has the attitude that they're just doing the patients a favour. That's the problem. When the NHS started, it was with the idea of service to people. But over the years, this has changed, and now the patients have to make nice to the NHS, because the NHS is doing them a favour. All the taxes we pay to fund the NHS, no, that's neither here nor there. The report, published earlier this month in partnership with the LGBT Foundation, says patients can only request care from same-sex staff member in limited circumstances, such as if they are having an intimate examination. And I might say that's obviously something we have to consider will go next. It states that when a patient requests an employee administering care to be a woman or a man, the comfort of the staff member should be prioritised. The comfort of the staff member, not the patient, not the person who's sick, not the person... I mean, when you're in hospital, very often you're in fear for your life, aren't you? You're in a very bad state, usually. And the comfort of the staff member is what should be prioritised. It says here, patients with dementia should be challenged. What? The report goes on to say that the patient has no right to be told the person treating them is trans or non-binary, adding, it would likely be discriminatory for the patient to refuse to be treated or cared for by a trans person unless clear and evidence clinical harm may result to the patient. Well, you know, this is nonsense putting that in, because by that time the incident is over. You may later on say, oh, well, yeah, there could have been some clinical harm, but that's not what's going on while the encounter is happening. Patients with dementia should be challenged if they express discriminatory views about transgender staff, the 97-page guide states, while their relatives may be removed from the premises if they do the same. This is horrific stuff. This is horrible. This is a sign of a complete collapse of the medical system. I mean, the morals of the medical system. A non-binary medic can refuse to treat a patient with the advice stating they should not be forced to deliver care if this would cause undue distress or invalidate their lived experience of gender. Word salad? And then nobody working for the NHS should be subject to discrimination. Yeah, nobody working for the NHS should be subject to discrimination in their work. That is, they should never be passed over for a job if they're good at it, if they happen to not fit a particular profile, you know, like being white or being a man or something like that. No, there should be no discrimination for that. But patients are something else. They are there to deliver care to patients, whatever the patients are. Because the patients are in a separate category. At least that's the theory. Now the medical staff have decided they're the ones in the separate category. It is absolutely awful. Saffron Cordery. Oh, Saffron. Well, you can sort of tell where she comes from. The Deputy Chief Executive of NHS providers said, "Trust leaders are committed to ensuring all their staff are treated with dignity and respect, and the publication of the NHS's first ever EDI plan is a welcome step towards that ambition." No, 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 no. But yeah, Saffron here. Obviously, parents of a certain class who've coddled her most of her life. Nobody working for the NHS should be subject to bullying, harassment, discrimination or violence because of who they are. Yeah. So if you have a patient who is bullying somebody, then they have to be taken care of, but they have to be treated accordingly. They should not be threatened. But you see how she is conflating this idea about bullying, harassing and that sort of thing with somebody simply saying, "No, I don't want that person treating me." Can you see how the two things are now the same thing? So some old lady saying, "No, I want a white nurse looking after me," is the same as some 6-foot drunk guy who's threatening to black a nurse's eye because she won't see him straight away. That's basically what's going on here. Trust leaders are determined to stamp out these structural, persistent inequities. No, that's not an inequity. This is somebody who's completely lost the ability to think critically. Matthew Taylor, the Chief Executive of NHS Confederation, said, "This is a guide for our members on how they can be effective and active allies to their trans and non-binary staff. It does not constitute formal policy for the NHS, a get-out clause. Just don't take care. It does not constitute formal policy." Of course, if somebody on the NHS staff wants to take offence, they will do so. The patient will not get taken care of. And then later on, the inquiry will say, "Well, yeah, it was only a guideline." No, once it's down there in black and white, perhaps you'll forgive that expression, then it's going to be acted upon, especially by people who are determined to take offence at certain things. This is a guide for our members on how they can be effective and active allies to their trans and non-binary staff. This is ridiculous. They're just, what do you mean allies? If somebody is being bullied, you stop the bullying. If somebody says, "Look, I don't want that person, man, Pakistani, Indian, black, whatever, looking after me," then that's not bullying, that's silly. Because though that person might be the best person to treat them, that's silly, but it is not bullying. And I am quite certain that if a woman of Pakistani heritage says she would prefer a Pakistani doctor to be looking after her, on the grounds maybe that he can understand her language better, you know, probably spurious, then I don't think anyone would raise that issue as something bad, would they? What do you reckon? No, this is directed at white patients only, I suspect. He added, we understand that this is a contested area. I'll say it is. It's not only contested, it's mad, it's bad, and it's dangerous. And he says, we're grateful to the LGBT Foundation for doing this. Doing what? I suppose writing the guidelines. No, you shouldn't be grateful. You should tell them all to sod off. Really, you should. And the LGBT Foundation is nothing more than a Stonewall infiltration, isn't it? And I don't understand why sensible people are falling for this or falling into this. The hospitals are becoming institutions for deciding who gets medical treatment based on based on their politically correct expression. It's a terrible, terrible thing. It is an immoral thing. It's a horrible thing. It's just sickening and heartbreaking. Right, well, yeah, that's my opinion about this. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.